Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 2 is here. I'm going to take questions from my Twitch chat. We do this show every week. We've done this show every week since like 2015. Every Friday, I take 45 minutes to an hour and I talk to chat about any questions that they might have, whether it's going to be cash games, tournaments, strategy, bankroll management, breaking down players, finding value, general philosophy about DFS, whatever it is. We're going to take that time right here, and I'm going to try and get to as many of those questions as I can in the next 45 to 60 minutes. So thank you guys for being here, and let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League is up. Let's see how many we have in this as of right now, because I haven't refreshed this since yesterday's video. Right now, we're at 2,500, just over 2,500 entries. It is a $10 to enter 3 max tournament. So like, it's very limited entry. The best part about it is there's absolutely no rake. DraftKings makes no money on this tournament. If we fill it, if we get to 4,000 people in the tournament, they'll keep it probably the same size as long as you guys fill it. If we don't fill it, they're going to make it smaller, which means less prize money for you. So make sure that you get in there. There is a link right down below in 2 places. It's in the pinned comment. It's in the description. smizzle.tv/links. You should probably just bookmark it. It's very easy to find, and it has the link to the Listener League. It has the link to my Best Buys column, which is right here on ESPN. It has the link to our fundraiser at No Kid Hungry and everything else. See, it's right here. Twitch, Instagram, Listener League, join the Discord, No Kid Hungry, Best Buys on ESPN, the HQ NFT, all of those things. Everything is in here. Every link you need. So definitely go check that out. Smizzle.tv/links. Let's bring in the chat. Hopefully the chat is working today. Chat, are you here? Hello? Okay, good. You're here. I was wondering where you guys were. You're sleeping. What are you doing sleeping? We got an AMA to do. This is on you, chat. You're part of this show. Do I think if you aren't on Detroit, Washington in early only that you can still win? I haven't looked at early only. So like I don't have an answer for that. I could bring up an early only game and check it. Like it's a good slate this week because it's so split, right? Usually we get these trash, like how can I put this? You get these trash slates, right? That the NFL will put out. It's a 12-game slate on Sunday, and then usually they'll put like 10 games at 1 p.m. and then 2 games at 4. It sucks. This week it's different. We got what, 7 games in the early only? So like I'll take a look at early only if you want to. And 2 games on Monday. Yeah, I don't like 2 games on Monday, but that's me as a content creator. I don't like 2 games on Monday. So early only, you're saying if you don't have that game, we have Dolphins Ravens is 43.5. Browns Jets is 40.5. I'm talking totals. Commanders Lions is 48.5. Jaguars Colts 47. These lines may have changed. Don't fact check. Hey, dude, that one's 47.5 now. Okay, I get it. They move. This is what I have written in my book. 45.5 for Saints Bucks. 43 for Panthers. And Steelers is 41. I mean, clearly Commanders Lions is the best game on the slate. For the early slate, Colts Jaguars not far behind. But the sneaky game in the morning slate is right here. This is the sneaky game on the morning slate. Baltimore against Miami. So here's why. Baltimore is having some issues. They got issues. I don't have them too, but Baltimore has them. And they're specifically in their secondary. Their top 3 cornerbacks are like dust. They lost 1 in week 1 and 2 of them didn't practice on Friday. If those guys can't suit up and play, they're down 3 cornerbacks. And I wonder, like, does Miami have any good wide receivers that might be able to do something against bad cornerbacks? Yeah, I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be good. They'll be good. Yeah, I think Miami is going to be fine. Please, nobody watch this part. Skip ahead. Never show this part again. Do I prefer Lenny or Connor for GPP? I mean, I feel like I'm always on team Lenny. It's going to, for GPP, when you have 2 players that are projecting that close to one another, I'm typically going to side on the one that has less people on them, right? So I don't know what the percentages are for those 2 off the top of my head. I'm going to assume that they're both projecting somewhere around 10 to 15%. So none of them are, I know that none of them are under 5 for sure. Cause like I do the 5 under 5 video today. So I already have my notes. Neither of them are projecting at under 5%. So they're probably all around like 10 to 15, both of those guys. It's a matter of salt to taste. I like both. I think Lenny is probably the better play, but if he's not practicing on Friday, we're going to have to reassess. We'll figure all of that out. Who are the cash game favorites? So I get asked this a lot. I'm going to have to do a rant here on this video at some point, but like not yet. people ask me all week, why don't you do more cash game videos? And it's like, because one, cash games are extremely straightforward nowadays. We are a very projection based game, right? You see Sharon, the queen of cash, saying cash is easy. Yes. So cash games this week, like, I don't always say this, but this week cash games are very straightforward, right? Cash games build themselves this week. So if you want to know, hell, here's why I don't make long form content about cash games, because like it can't even fill a TikTok, right? This isn't even going to take 60 seconds. You want to know where cash games are? Here's where cash games are. First, Bengals defense. That's the first thing you're clicking in your cash games for this week on DraftKings. At wide receiver, you're going to get dorched because last week he had 9 targets, 7 receptions. We highlighted him both on the Anti-Tinkercast on Sunday morning and on this very show last week. I worked you through my process and told you why. He's in there. Henderson is going to be in cash games because he is projecting so very, very well versus his salary right now. This is where your cash games start. $50. Thank you very much for the 13 months. So like these 3 guys is where you're starting. The number 1 value play at quarterback is going to be Derek Carr. Really high total, 28.5 points against a depleted defense at home. You always want to make bets on high implied team totals when it comes to quarterbacks. Very good correlation between quarterbacks, fantasy scoring, and implied team totals. And he's like very cheap. You can go other routes if you want to, whatever. Most people are going to be on, over half the field is going to be on this quad right here. Tight end, there's plenty of value. The best projecting one is going to be Alberto. And then now we got $7,100 to fill in the rest. Like, this is not difficult. Like, cash games are very simple. You don't really have to do all that much. And this, I'm not putting Adams in this lineup because I have Carr. We're not stacking in cash. Both of them individually are the best values at their position. If you wanted to go and get really frisky, you could put in Cooper Kupp in there and still have 5,700 remaining. You know, the cash games are pretty easy this week. Find the most volume, attack. Like, cash games are going to be a 2v2 this week. Everybody's going to have the same guys at like 6 or 7 positions. And then you're going to be flipping coins at the other 2 spots. I believe Adam used to call those, a show me week. They make your opponent show you that they know who to play in cash games this week. That's cash games. That took me 60 seconds. There's no reason for me to have to go approve it week. There you go. There's no reason to spend an entire video anymore talking about cash games. Play the best players. Don't get cute. Don't fade players in cash, right? Like, cash games are lame. I disagree. But also, we've talked about this. If you're a lower stakes player, if you're somebody who has between $20 and $500 in play on a main slate Sunday, you are a lower stakes player. I don't say that meaning any offense to people that are playing in that range, but cash games are extremely beatable for players who are playing in that range. And you should be playing as many different opponents at $1 and $2 as you can. That will give you a nice solid floor, you know, for your spend, and watch your money trickle upwards while still giving you enough time and money to play in some of the GPPs that you guys should be targeting. We've talked about limited entry, smaller field, all that sort of stuff at the low level to give yourself some upside on the week by building GPP specific lineups and still having a really good floor to profit most weeks. Now, do what I say, not what I do, because that's not how I play anymore, because it's not all that viable at high stakes for me anymore to do that. The edges are much smaller at higher stakes. GPPs are going to be beautiful this week. They could be. There's a lot of juiciness. Looking at where the percentage charts were this morning before I went live makes me very interested in specific GPP combinations. Cash today is the most difficult it's been. There's a reason. I mean, at the high stakes, here's why I don't play cash anymore. We've gone over this, right? I've said this numerous times over the last like 3-4 years. I don't like flipping coins for money. I specifically don't like flipping coins for tens of thousands of dollars. And I definitely don't like doing that, flipping coins for tens of thousands of dollars and having the benefit of paying somebody else 5 to 6% rake for the benefit of flipping coins for tens of thousands of dollars. There's no variation in cash games. It's a very projection driven world. And at the high stakes, everybody's using good projections and everybody's optimizing. So like at best, it's like a 1v1 at tight end or wide receiver and maybe defense. Maybe you've got 2-3 spots differentiated. We're all playing the same guys at high stakes. So Tournaments is where your edge can be. And when you start doing that, your profitability chart no longer looks like this. You know, it no longer just goes upward over time steadily. Now there's going to be a lot more peaks and valleys. Hopefully over time, it's still going up. And over time, mine is still going up. But there's going to be some valleys in there where I don't bink a tournament, even though I believe I'm playing what is an optimal style to try and win tournaments, not be profitable in tournaments. I'm not trying to be profitable every week in tournaments. And I think that that escapes people. If you're going to be GPP centric, you have to be able to deal with the swings. You know, it is what it is. Bengals going to be 30% in tournaments. I don't know offhand. I would say over 20. Let's just say over 20 and go and go there, right? Like, is that good enough? My $20 bankroll can't handle these swings. I'm trying to bring my projections up on the screen. You see my face turn colors. So like, what are we looking at? Defense? Yeah, they're projecting over 30 right now with no other defense over 12. So like in tournaments, you got decisions to make with Cincinnati. Cincinnati can kill us if we fade them. If Cooper Rush is horrible and Dallas's offense doesn't change for the change in quarterback. Hopefully they should, right? They should run a much different offensive strategy than they do with Dak when they have Cooper Rush out there. Do I make my own projections? Do I use ETR? I start with ETR and labs, and then I tweak a lot because like I want difference. I don't want to use the same projections that everybody else is using. But like they're a good starting point. I don't need to maintain my own spreadsheet anymore, but I used to. Like I go through and I spot, okay, this is a blind spot. This is different. I want this guy to be higher, you know. But for me, it's more about decisions I can make in tournaments, you know, and like making those decisions in tournaments is as much about having knowledge of how to operate in game theory, you know, tips on how to spot blind spots. Every site has, I mean, every projection set is going to have blind spots. Anybody who says that their projections are without blind spots for specific players is lying to you, or they're lying to themselves. Puke Stack Maxi. Puke Stack is awesome. This week, I think the Puke Stack, and I didn't put it on the video because I had too many other good stacks to get to. There were two. So one Puke Stack is Jared Goff, right? It's not hard to get to him. It's not hard to stack him. Everybody wants to play Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. Well, if Amon-Ra St. Brown has a really, really big week, like 2 touchdowns, then Jared Goff might have 3 or 4 touchdowns. Like, if Amon-Ra St. Brown has 125 and 2 touchdowns on 9 catches, do you think Jared Goff is only going to have 130 yards passing and 2 touchdowns? Probably not. The second Puke Stack is not a Puke Stack anymore, but it was right here. Like this was the second Puke Stack. Boom, boom. That was it. I still think it's going to be low. You know, you could bring it back with that and get way different from the field. But like, there's your 2 Puke Stacks. Like how I laughed at the thought of Goff with 3 or 4 T's. It could happen. It's happened before. But here's where things get missed, right? We've spoken about the correlation matrix when it comes to fantasy football. Fantasy football correlation matrix. Okay? Correlation matrix. I don't want an article. Love number fire. Don't want an article. I want images because images work really, really well. This one has pretty colors. Open in new tab. There. Ah, it's too big. There. Okay. So this is the correlation matrix. How correlated is any position on this side with a position up here? Quarterback 1 with running back 1. Running back 1 with running back 2. Quarterback 1 with wide receiver 1. Quarterback 1 with wide receiver 2. Tight end 1 with their defense. Not really correlated at all. Right? So this is basically how correlated is something with the other thing. Quarterback with the opponent's running back 1 is correlated with the opponent's wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 and wide receiver and tight end 1. So like you see where the correlation is. However, specifically speaking about quarterback 1 and running back 1, which is kind of a meh correlation, right? That encompasses every single running back 1 quarterback 1, running back 1 ever. And guys like Nick Chubb don't correlate with their quarterback because he doesn't catch passes. So if Nick Chubb is having a massive day and scoring touchdowns, his quarterback is not passing for a lot of yards or throwing for touchdowns. The game is shorter. The quarterback's getting less plays because they're all running, right? He's running it 27 times for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns. Is not leaving a lot of meat on the bone for his quarterback, as opposed to prime Le'Veon Bell, Christian McCaffrey, prime David Johnson, currently now guys like Swift or Barkley or whoever catches a ton of footballs, right? A pass catching back, Alvin Kamara, who typically will get 12 to 14 carries, 11 to 14 carries, but like 7 to 10 targets in a game. Those guys correlate better. So when you take a deeper dive into the correlation matrix, you see that there are some guys who correlate better than what the whole is. So whenever I talk about stacking for tournaments, I'm talking about double stack and bring back, and I get a lot of blowback, specifically this week in the mentions on YouTube, for no reason, but always, right? This week was ridiculous. Quoting how often a double stack gets somewhere across all double stacks does me no good, because, well, a quarterback only scores 30 points this many times. Yeah, but those are the only quarterbacks who win, right? What percent of the time does the Millionaire Maker winner quarterback have over 25 points? It's probably higher than the number of, how many times does the Millionaire Maker top 1% have 25 plus points from a quarterback? How many times did it have 30 plus points from a quarterback? It's high, much higher than all quarterbacks. So when I'm building tournament lineups, I'm really trying to isolate for that event. And of the times that quarterbacks score over 30 points, the receiver and a secondary player from that team also have a really solid day. You're getting over 75 points from that triple, over 80 points from that triple, way more than the field. And that's all I care about when it comes to tournaments. So, like, generally speaking, play whoever you want, right? But if you're playing to come in 10,000th, if you're playing to finish in the top 50 percentile of a tournament, you're doing tournaments wrong. I tweeted this out last night. If you're not willing to give up a couple of points on optimal, right? Well, the optimal lineup projects for 150. The lineup you said only projects for 140. Yeah, but my lineup is going to be much more rare. And when my lineup goes off, it's going to go off for 250. And I want to isolate for that event to put myself in a position to actually be in a position to win a tournament. Because I feel like if you're not doing that, you're doing tournaments wrong. You have to be trying to win the whole damn thing when you enter a tournament. And to do that, you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and give up a couple of points of optimal to get to a lesser played player, a lesser played secondary, or a lesser played stack, with the correlation that all of it could go off in one situation to put you all the way at the top of the leaderboard. If you're not willing to do that, you're not trying to win. It's like if you're playing poker and you're not abusing the bubble, if you're not if you're not three or four betting from the button, from position, if you're not just taking advantage of people when a table gets tight, if you never get caught with your hand in the cookie jar, you're playing bad poker. You are. You never get caught. You got me bluffing, right? Chat says you play to win the game. Yes, you do. You have to. There is no joy in coming in 1500th in the Millionaire Maker. You got to get into the top 500, and then you need that one thing to happen. That's the key to the Millionaire Maker. You have to get your lineups into the top 500 as often as possible. You need to overweight the top 1% of that tournament, and then you need something to happen. It's that simple. And then pray for a miracle. Then, like I said, say two ways of saying the same thing, two sides of the same coin, right? You got to be aggressive in tournament, got to be selectively aggressive in tournament poker. You can't just be aggressive all the time. You'll lose money over time if you're just hyper aggro all the time. You need Steph Diggs to go off. I mean, yeah, I needed him to do stuff in that game, but like, that's what winning tournaments is. You need everybody to go off. It's not easy to score 225 to 250 on DraftKings. It's not. You need all those things to happen all at once. And I wanted to address one more thing. So somebody mentioned it in chat. People said, oh, Al's mailing it in on these Showdown videos. Showdown is Keno. You ever been anybody old enough to remember when Keno was a thing in Vegas hotels? You'd go to the restaurant and there'd be waitresses in these terrible outfits, black and red skirts and stuff, walking around, Keno, and you'd take a crayon and you'd scribble in crayon on a thing. You'd mark off some numbers and you'd give it to them and say, I'll take 4 games for $20 or whatever when you get back. You know, and they bring you a card and you sit there, you eat, and then some numbers pop up on a screen, and then the waitress comes around, she looks at your card, she goes, yeah, you lost. That's Showdown. Now, there's a caveat to this. It's not as random as Keno. There is a somewhat solved path to winning at Showdown on DraftKings, to putting yourself in a position to win on DraftKings. It's solved. And so I will, on those videos, tell you these are the captains that I think are viable. This is how you should go about building your lineups. And then you have to pick somebody that's under 20% and force at least one of them, if not two, into all of your lineups. But like, I feel like people are demanding or want impossibilities from content. I want you to dig into all of the sub $1,000 guys and tell me which one of them is most likely to go off. Nobody freaking knows that. I could put out trash content for Showdowns. I could be a massive blowhard talking for 30 minutes to get longer view time on videos, because click-through rate and view time are what matters most on YouTube. I could talk to you and I could have a real clickbaity title. 5 guys you must play on Showdown that are under $1,000 on DraftKings. Like, but it would be trash. It would be the trashiest of content, because no, like, there's no content that can lead you to Will Disley. There's no content that can lead you to Christian Watson, or not Christian Watson, the dude that caught for that was on the Buccaneers last year, that caught a touchdown last night for the Chiefs and won it solo. He's a sub 10%. Justin Watson, thank you. Christian Watson's on the Packers. There's no content that's going to lead you to that. He played like 10 snaps and got lucky that he caught a 50-yard pass on a blitz from Mahomes, right? Chai Jello, thank you for the 61 months. Racing Press, thank you for the 18 months. It's like, there's no path to that. Christian Watson would have dropped it. Oof, it's tough. So, like, it's random. Yes. Will Disley was random. Andrew Beck was random. So, like, wasting your time just to get more watch time, pretending like anybody knows what's going to happen at the $200 to $1,000 range on a Showdown is a waste of content. And people can click the video or they won't. It doesn't matter. But, like, Keno had, what, 80 numbers on the board? What if I told you that the public was going to pick from 1 through 80, but you had to pick 3 numbers? You could only pick 3 numbers, but all the numbers on the board that come up are going to be from 60 to 80. But the public's going to be picking 1 through 60 all over the place. That's Showdown too. We have this solved. We know where it is. We know how to get to the top. We know how you should correlate those lineups. It comes down to the captains that you pick, and we know why, you know? And you'll be in a position. You won't win every week. You're not going to win at Showdown every week, even if you build 150 lineups, even if you manicure your stuff, even if you get 1 or 2 of those low played guys, but you're going to be in a position to win Showdown more often than not. But you're putting yourself in a position to win more often. And that's the best that anybody can do for content on Showdowns. And if you're looking for other content, then I don't know what to tell you. But that's what the Showdown content is. And that's also why, you know, that's also why it's basically the same content for every Showdown, because it's the same strategy on every Showdown. Every Showdown is the same. The players' names are just different, but every Showdown's the same. Unless something screwy happens, like 3 wide receivers are inactive. Who is it? Richie James a couple years ago? Was it when he was on like San Francisco? Who was that guy that was like 200, but he was going to play 85% of the snaps, like he was a plug and play? How leveraged you need to get in small contests around 100 players? I'd go with our basic tournament correlation if you're trying to win it. Typically, those tournaments they pay less than 20% of the field. They pay 12 to 15% of the field. So less people get in the money. We had somebody that won a bunch of them last week. Correlate your lineup. Use a secondary stack along with your QB stack, double stack, whatever you want to use. Put in some good, solid plays around them. You'll get different enough that when your stuff goes off, you'll get to the top. When you win, you'll win the most that you could win. But I feel like too many people aren't looking for processed content, and they just tell me, give me the answers to the test. Tell me the Will Disley. Steve, thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs. If y'all got a gifted sub from Steve, make sure that you say thank you. And if you're still watching the video after that rant, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. Good mojo for the weekend. Gifted subs and charity donations are always good mojo for the weekend. How much leverage is needed to win a small... I can't go through tournament by tournament in the lobby and tell you how to win every tournament. It's basically the same with slight tweaks. It's always the same. I did give you Greg Dortch, but there's the other part of that showdown stuff. So we talked about the process last week on this show and on the Anti-Tinkercast that led me to Greg Dortch last weekend. And this is like, this hits on a lot of topics that we've talked about. A lot of stuff led to Greg Dortch. We knew that Rondale was going to be out. Dortch looked really good through the preseason. He played in the slot, and a lot of people were looking towards Andy Isabella to fill in there, right? And the reality was Andy Isabella did not play in the slot at all during preseason. He played like one slot snap, as opposed to Dortch, who played a ton of slot snaps. And kind of looking over here at Fantasy Labs, in the preseason, 8 targets in the slot, 7 targets in the slot, 12 targets in the slot. Yes, it's against guys that are probably selling cars right now, but then in week 1, when pressed into action, it's next man up more often than not in the NFL. It's easier to move one guy or to take the guy who does the thing and move him into that spot than to take a guy out of position and move him into a different position. So Dortch was the next man up. But like, situations like that present themselves once, maybe twice in an entire NFL season. So like, rambling on about the exploits of the 3rd string tight end on Denver, or whether or not how many the 5th string wide receiver on Kansas City, and maybe in 10 snaps they get sung. Focusing on and finding a Greg Dortch is not easy. There's not going to be one on every slate. And he was 0.3% played in the Millionaire Maker. I had 20% of him in the Millionaire Maker. I still didn't win the freaking Millionaire Maker. So like, even if you're on that play, it's not going to guarantee you a massive bank in a tournament. It helps, especially if other chalk fails. But like, expecting people to come up with that guy every showdown when they're not getting the run that Greg Dortch got last week. And I'm going to break my arm, pat myself on the back for that one, because that was a damn good play. That was good process that led us to a good result last week. And the difference is, I'm not comfortable playing Greg Dortch, right? Last week, I don't know. I've never heard this guy's name before. I don't know who he is. I can't play this guy. I've never heard of him. He's like 5'5". And then people start looking for every excuse to not play the guy. By the time you've waited and seen, you heard me say this before? By the time you've waited and seen, the opportunity's gone. So Rondale Moore is out, and Greg Dortch is going to be, in any projection model, one of, if not the top value play at wide receiver in week 2. And he's going to be like 30% in tournaments. He's going to be held by 100 times more people in that tournament than he was in week 1. You waited and saw, and now the opportunity's gone, and now we have to find somewhere else. For cash, though, yeah, you're playing Greg Dortch. Is Jeff Wilson too cute for cash? On FanDuel, I don't think so. On FanDuel, I think he's fine. On DraftKings, yes, I think he's too cute for cash. Yeah, I tell you which to, yeah, but like, Jeripol, that's what I'm saying. Like, the low percentage for Showdown specifically, right? For Showdown specifically, those 200 to 1200 guys are pretty random, because they're random because they're not playing 80% of the snaps. They're random because they're not on the field that much. They're random because they get 2% of the target market share. Why wasn't Rondale out for the cage match? I mean, if he was, Dortch would have been the number 1 pick. Interesting running back slate. You just joined. Any overarching thoughts? So at running back, I think there are 2 guys that project over everybody. The first one is going to be Darrell Henderson Jr. The second one is going to be Barkley. This should be in 100% of cash games. Head-to-heads, this is it. Okay? Tournament, do whatever the hell you want, right? For tournaments, I don't mind if you do that. And just talked about this. I don't mind if you do that. This is a much better tournament combination at running back than the other one. Mixon is GPP. Mixon's cash viable this week. Not only on volume, but also opportunity, opponent, you know. But like, Chai Jello's right. Look, play whoever you want. I think that you can get somewhat unique by going with Jonathan Taylor, because there's 2 guys on the slate who are 9,900. There's Jonathan Taylor and there's Cooper Kupp, our cover boy for today. Because getting to Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp is somewhat restrictive. It's less restrictive right now than it was 2 hours ago. And it's less restrictive now than it was 2 hours ago because Rondale Moore is out, and now we have a 3,500 play with a lot of volume. But Jonathan Taylor, like, look at whatever site you use, Jonathan Taylor is probably not projecting over 15%, in many places under 10. Same for Cooper Kupp. So like, you could bank 25 points and possibly 40 from either one of them. Neither are going to be on 5 under 5 because they're projecting for over 5%, but like under 10 is still fine. You know, you just want lower played guys. You don't need the lowest played guy. Is Dortch cash viable? Dortch is a cash lock because if he hurts you, he doesn't hurt you that much. What's a bad game for Dortch this weekend? 2 catches for 26 yards for 3.5K. You know, that's a bad game. If he's on the field, if he plays the whole game, a bad game for anybody is they get hurt, right? That doesn't count as a bad game. Injuries don't count as a bad game. We kind of have to break that mentality that if a player gets hurt, oh, I got a bad game, this guy killed me this week. No, he literally had his spleen laying on the 30-yard line. That's not his fault. Is his floor even that low? I don't think so. I'm just saying that's like the ultimate bad game, right? Like, is there a path to that? Sure. Like maybe they score a kickoff, a touchdown on kickoff, then they kick it off, then they get a defensive touchdown, and then Connor scores a touchdown, and somebody else gets a long pass, and then they're up like 24-0 at halftime, and they run the ball the whole second half. Like, sure, they just don't throw it very much. They throw it like 25 times, right? And he just doesn't get any targets. There's a path to that. How reliable or how probable is that path? I don't know. Do I do the underdog battle royale throughout the week, or do I wait until the weekend? So, Huckleberry, you won that last year, right? I said somebody in the community won it. I just remembered you were the one that won that last year. You took it down one of those weeks. Angel P, thank you for the 20 months. Scotty Guy, thank you for the 9 months. Got that Twitch baby. So because of the content that I do, specifically the content that I've been doing this year, my afternoons after stream have been locked up writing articles and recording videos off stream for the football channel. Fridays are a dead day for me in the afternoon. I'm free on Friday afternoon. I'm done doing content. As soon as this show is over, 5 under 5 is locked. This video's locked up. It's in the can. I don't have to do anything. So I kind of just sit around and I draft battle royale. So Friday is my battle royale day. I'll get 10 of them drafted today. It's fun. I love battle royale on Underdog Fantasy. If you guys have not checked it out, let's go over to Underdog Fantasy real quick. Go to the lobby. They have this battle royale week 2, $250,000 GPP. So it's not insignificant. You basically draft like you would a best ball draft. And if you do not have an account on Underdog Fantasy, smizzle.tv/underdog, or just use promo code ALSMIZZLE, all one word, ALSMIZZLE, and you get a deposit bonus on your first deposit to the site up to $100 that you can use for Battle Royale lineups, which are only $5. You draft 5 players. 5, right? Yeah, 5 players against 6. There's 6 people in each league, and then you play against literally everybody. So there's somewhat of a strategy to it. Getting an elite tight end is a thing on weeks where Kelsey and Pitts and whatever on the slate. Without Kelsey, you may not have to do that this week. So it's not uncommon to see like Kelsey go with the number 1 pick. Quarterbacks go much later. Yeah, they score high, but only 6 are getting drafted. So you're going to get a top 6 quarterback. Running backs can go later. Wide receivers, tight ends seem to go earlier. Simple correlation is easy, whether it's through a secondary stack or if you get the quarterback that you want. Draft a couple today. It's fun. And you know what? While we're here, let's do a pick'em. Let's do a pick'em. All right, who do we got? Refresh the pick'ems, please, because I don't want to get locked out. Who should we go with? Not going to go with it. Mike Evans under. I never bet unders, chat. I never bet unders. We're going to go under 14.75 for Mike Evans. Did Russell Gage practice today? Lowers? No, over gang. But this one against, it's got to be lower there. That's got to be lower. I can play. Here, look. He might be injured and not play. He might be injured and not play. So if they don't play, it's a no-go, right? I'm going to put this one in. And if they don't play, it's a no-go. But you can play any one of these that you want. They're all over the slate. Correlate your guys. Play a quarterback over to a wide receiver over. Play a quarterback lower to a wide receiver lower. Correlate your pick'ems. You just have to have guys from 2 different teams. Go visit Underdog Fantasy today. Swift practice. Yeah, I saw that before. Lowers are sharper, right? Unders are sharper for obvious reasons. Barkley is the new CMC moving forward. I think that CMC is going to be just fine. I think that CMC is going to be lower played than everybody else. I know that Steve asked me a question. He wanted me to hit on wide receivers. Favorite pay up. Give me above what? 6,000? Do I ever use a 2,500 tight end in cash? I mean, I have. It's not an every week thing. I think it could be viable this week. Will Pitts be fine? I believe so. Pitts might score his first touchdown in the United States of America this week. He also might not. He's never scored a touchdown in the NFL in the United States. Sad. What a loser. Love Kyle Pitts. He's so good. He's so good. All right, so high-priced wide receivers. What do you guys have in terms of percentage right now? Because I can't bring up the percentage stuff. What do you have for Cooper Kupp right now on percentage? Because like paying up to be contrarian on him seems pretty damn sharp. And by contrarian, I mean like he's going to be 10 to 15%. If he's 25 plus, that's a different story, but I don't expect that. I think that Adams is going to be the pay up candidate that everybody's going to go to, which means that in tournaments, I don't really want to do that as much. The most obvious stack this week, this is going to be this is going to be in every tournament. Y'all know that I enter the Thunderdome, the $5,000 tournament. This is going to be all over the Thunderdome. This is half the Thunderdome lineups right here. 15%, 14% on Kupp. Okay. So like right where I thought, him and Jonathan Taylor 10 to 15%, right? So like what if you were to go get 30%? What if you said, and Devontae Adams is what, around 30% probably? 25 to 35, somewhere in that range? I have whatever ETR has, says Huckleberry. Yeah. So like I kind of I average out all the sites, right? I don't need one of them. I want to know, I'm going to aggregate what everybody has. 23 on Adams and 14 on Kupp. So like what if you went 5% or 10% Adams just to cover that square across multiple lineups, but you said I'm going to go 30% Cooper Kupp because that's going to get me some differentiation from a guy that typically has a 25-point floor and a 45-point ceiling. What if you go with Deebo Samuel? I know he's projecting under 5%. Kittle out, should see more targets, got 7 of them in week 1. Discount this 2 reception on 7 targets. That's not going to happen all the time. They were playing in a flipping monsoon. If they were on a boat last week, it would have been a 3-hour tour. That's how hard it was raining. It was like Noah's Ark. There were animals walking 2 by 2 up Lakeshore Drive, walking into Soldier Field. It was bad. That's all I'm saying. So like Deebo under 5% seems weird. That's not a tease. I took him out of 5 under 5 because I used him last week. So there's a bonus. That's 6 under 5 now. Look for the other 5 tomorrow right here on the main channel. Jamar Chase is going to be extremely popular at 8K. The differentiation guy feels like it's Tyreek Hill. He's probably my favorite tournament play at wide receiver. However, I think he's going to get massively juiced by the weekend. Everybody's going to sit on this cornerback injury story. Everybody's going to see his price at 7,100 and his percentage projection at under 15%, and everybody's going to get on board. They're going to start, so you know what? He did have 12 targets, didn't have a touchdown, had 94 yards last week. He's projected at 15%. I can get 30, 35%. We know that he's got 40-point upside in him. You know, this is the guy. That's your dude right there. Tyreek's getting steamed. Yeah, to use the term from forever in gambling. But will they have the guts to double stack? Exactly. So here's, like, I hate having to hit on this all the time, but like, I feel like in tournaments, you need to isolate, right? You need to isolate to quarterback outcomes. We've talked about how it's Taco Bell, right? Quarterbacks are like going to Taco Bell. Nobody goes to Taco Bell for the reason why Taco Bell wants you to go to Taco Bell. Like, they give you the food for free. You know, all the Taco Bell food is free, essentially. Here's a taco for 17 cents. Here's all the free hot sauce you can have. We make the tacos super duper salty. Large Pepsi, $3. Taco Bell exists to sell you Pepsi. Quarterbacks exist to get you onto wide receivers. So I feel like you need to isolate for quarterbacks that you feel have 30-point plus upside on the week. Is there a path to 30-plus point upside on the week? And try to come up with a number in your head out of 100%. What percent of the time does this quarterback score 30-plus DraftKings points this weekend? And then, is that number greater than the amount of people on percent that are going to stack that quarterback in tournaments? If that number is greater than the amount of people that are on it, that's a good tournament stack. Because if the quarterback has 30-plus fantasy points, he's dragging some wide receivers along with him. 30-plus fantasy points is a 300-yard bonus, 3-plus touchdowns. If you're getting that out of the quarterback, yes. Tyreek Hill is the Baja Blast. Ha. I wonder how many people are going to get that reference. What are you doing here, Taco Bell? They're like Robinson or Higbee as a double stack with Cutmore. I love Allen Robinson. He's under 10% also. Not going to be on 5 under 5 because he's not under 5, but he's under 10%. People don't want to see it. People snap too hard, and recency bias is a thing, and then also anchor bias. So recency bias, this is the only thing this is the most recent thing that happened, but it's also the only thing that happened being week 1. People see good or bad weeks in week 1, and then they think that's just how the season's going to go the rest of the year. Week 2 and week 3 are extremely tough because of that. They're extremely tough because projection sets tend to rubber band too quickly to the happenings of week 1. A-Rob, great FanDuel price. Yeah, he's way too cheap on FanDuel. Allen Robinson, way too cheap on FanDuel. Cash tight end under 4,500. It's Alberto, but we can look at him. So under 45. So like you're in a position like Zach Ertz is like okay, but not thrilling. Like I can get more targets for less money than 4,500. There's no way in hell I'm playing Mike Gesicki. Higbee's fine at 42. I don't expect 11 targets out of Higbee. More like 6. Noah Fant, no. Brait basically just out there doing cardio. Might see 5 targets on like the best week. Alberto has a chance at like 7+. They have to get the ball to their skill players more often. I like Evan Ingram. Don't really trust him for cash. I like Hunter Hurst, Helmsley, Hayden Hurst. I know. But like Logan Thomas, fine cash game alternative. There's a couple of things that I look at for cash games from a tight end more than anything else. Obviously, target market share is the on the surface one. Under the surface, I want guys who are running routes per dropback. You want guys who are not blocking, right? If a tight end is blocking 50 or 60% of the time, they're not somebody I would really consider for tournaments or GPP. There's just not enough upside. Guys like Logan Thomas are running routes on 75 or 80% of dropbacks, right? He's running snaps on I don't have the number on me because I don't have the sheet down here. But like historically, he's been like 85 since he's been on the Commanders, like 85% plus. He is out there in the red. He runs Kelsey and Waller type numbers when it comes to routes per dropback. Another one who does that, Evan Ingram. They do not have him block. What the hell happened to Evan Ingram? That's a whole different picture. He aged 17 years in 1 week. What the hell happened, Evan? You didn't even have a bad game. He looks like somebody who's been on... Y'all know I love the show Alone on the History Channel. He looks like he's been in the Alaskan outback for 74 days eating squirrels and pine nuts. Sweet Jesus. Squaws, I can't roster that. Playing for the Jags changes a man. I agree. Good Lord. His picture last week had hair. He's turned #Duval. I don't know. I'm never going to financially recover from that headshot. I have to rethink so many things now. Like there's a value tight end that I kind of have to talk about, but also I can't get that out of my head. Juwan Johnson's 2,500. If you want to completely punt off the position, I'm really trying to recover from that headshot. Woo! He ran routes on like 80% of Tampa Bay, of New Orleans dropbacks last week. He's out there. You know, he's super cheap. Like he's the punt play. Kylan Granson. Yeah, there's a couple. It's a value week at tight end. It's 3,700 and down at tight end this week is basically what you're paying. No Smythe Love, curious. Like there's guys that are down there that are somewhat viable. I'm not playing Andrew Beck. Not playing Saubert. You know, Granson for Indy had 7 targets last week. Mo Alley Cox, always a big target around the goal line. OJ Howard caught 2 touchdowns on 2 targets, and I think people are going to gravitate towards him at 3K, but I don't think that that's a viable route to go. He's out there as a ringing endorsement. Exactly. Disley, no thank you. I think most people should be gravitating towards Njoku, Alberto, Ingram, even with that picture, Hurst, Logan Thomas. I think that's the range. I think that's the range that most are going to fall on. It's a value week at tight end. There's plenty of them. Do I like running back, wide receiver, secondary like Gibson and St. Brown? If they can, for me, if you're going to play a running back as a part of a stack, bring back, or secondary stack, they have to be highly involved in the passing game. And this is where that recency bias and anchor bias can come into play with somebody like Antonio Gibson, because he got a ton of looks last week. You know, Antonio Gibson got a ton of looks, more targets and catches and receiving yards than he's ever had in his career last week. So now it's going to be assumed by many that, oh, they're just going to use him a ton in the passing game. He's going to be used like CMC the way they said he was going to be used like CMC last year, and we all hopped on board in the second round, myself included. And maybe they will. But also, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. And they've told us for a couple of years who they are, and it's not this with regards to Antonio Gibson. Maybe it's Wentz checking down. Maybe it's a change in philosophy from the coaches, which usually a change in philosophy from the coaches is never a thing that happens. It's usually attached to quarterbacks. ADOT is attached to the quarterback and attached to the pass catchers a lot of the time. So it's possible that this is just the new Antonio Gibson. If this is the new model of Antonio Gibson, I'm buying the 2022 model. But it might go back to being 18 carries, 2 targets. That's certainly possible. You know, that's something that is easily in the realm of possibility for him. But that's going to do it this week. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for watching the video. And look out for another one. Where is it? There.
He's a legend.